year 2019, we lived in a different world. We were talking about enhancing globalization, becoming a global village. We were talking about enhancing trade connectivity. We were talking about new startups and creating more small and medium enterprises. We wanted to travel freely, more connectivity for people. We wanted to travel even without visa, and we were almost getting there. Sri Lanka was targeting to have 1 million tourists coming to the country in 2019. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Permission from the Vice Chancellor of University of Moratuwa, Professor Niranjan Gunawardana, and also the guest of honor, the former Vice Chancellor, and also the members of the head table, and my dear friend, Dr. Teshara, the Director of the Business Research Unit of Moratuwa, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The answer to the questions that I raised, or the points that I made before I greeted you, is obvious. Today, in 2021, we are living in a different world. When the year 2020 dawned, we started hearing about a virus, a coronavirus, somewhere in Wuhan, in China. We had no clue how it was going to impact our day-to-day life. It was taking place in a far away place. But then it was in an animal market, coming from bats to the fish and fish to the humans. And soon we started hearing about this virus coming to the other countries as well. Initially to South Korea, Iran, and Italy. And soon it was spreading to the whole world. Then we started closing down, imposing travel restrictions, lockdowns, using emergency procedures. Instead of enhancing globalization, what we got was actually slowbalization. It's not globalization, but we got slowbalization. Entire world was closed at one point of time. Nothing moved, nothing happened. And also there were huge disruption to global supply chain, the global value chain, the global maritime trade and air transportation. So much so, in the initial period, 7,000 pilots lost their job, and majority of the aircraft were grounded and parked in a tarmac somewhere in an airport. Now, Sri Lanka's first encounter with the COVID-19 was actually when we heard that in the city of Wuhan, there were 33 students, Sri Lankan students and their families, who are kind of trapped in the city. And they wanted to come back to Sri Lanka. And their parents here wanted them to be back in Sri Lanka because Sri Lanka was considered very safe. And we did not know much about Wuhan. So it was a coordinated, combined operation, and thanks to our Sri Lankan national carrier, Sri Lankan airline, and all the other agencies involved, we could evacuate these 34 students from Wuhan to Sri Lanka. And that is, at that moment, Sri Lanka became the second country in the world to evacuate students from the worst hit area of Wuhan. And then we started hearing about our CBRN team of our Air Force, chemical, biological, radioactive and nuclear team. We saw people wearing white color dresses covered from head to toe, spraying and taking precautions. Then we started hearing about quarantine centers. Then we started hearing about PCR testing. So that is how Sri Lanka got involved in the COVID virus. Well, ladies and gentlemen, even at that time, the COVID-19 was not declared by the World Health Organization as a pandemic. Only in March 2020, COVID-19 was declared as a pandemic. Well, we did very well in the initial phase. When the first wave hit, we did everything possible and we were so successful. Many countries started praising Sri Lanka because we became almost the leading country in the whole world to combat the first wave so successfully. However, the inevitable happened. The second wave came, the third wave came. We don't know whether we are in the fourth wave or still in the end of the third wave. Now, of course, we have come a long way. We have vaccinated our population. As of this morning, 86% of our eligible population, not the total population, that is from 16 years and above, 86% vaccinated. We do see the results. Hospitalization has gone down. High oxygen concentration dependency has gone down. Death has gone down. And now we are leading the vaccination and we are within the top 10 countries in the world who has vaccinated a large population of their country. So ladies and gentlemen, now the country is returning back to somewhat normalcy, but still we are not safe. The simple theory is that no one is safe until all are safe. No one is safe until all are safe. That is the simple theory that we have. So we are okay, but still we will have to wear mask, which is something we had never done in our lives before 2009 probably. We only see the surgeons wearing a mask and operating. We had never worn a mask, but now we have to wear. Now the world is waiting when we can call this pandemic an endemic. However, all of a sudden we heard about Omicron. Now Omicron is actually the 15th letter of the Greek alphabet. And the theory is now the virus is coming to an end because the mutation has been such, the scientists believe that the vaccine is now coming, so not the vaccine, the virus is now coming to an end. That is a good news, but we are not sure until it is done. Now let me share some of my thoughts on something related to the forum, that is the businesses. Let me talk about the global supply chain interruptions. Now, recently, you know that US was celebrating Thanksgiving Day, but they were short of turkey and ketchup. Australia is short of timber to build houses. UK is short of carbonated drinks and coffee. And also car makers are running out of chips to make cars. There is a huge demand or short supply of Nike shoes and children's toys. Why? Because there had been severe interruption to the global supply chain. The smartphone lovers know the latest phone that we have is iPhone 13. You can't get one easily. You have to order. At least 2 months wait for an iPhone to come. Why? The most lucrative smartphone in the world today, the iPhone, is not readily available in the market. If you know the iPhone is actually made in China, Rather, the correct word is assembled in China. Why? From 43 different countries, parts are coming to China to assemble. And if you think Apple is supervising iPhone assembly in China, no. It is done by a company called Foxconn, right? So the chips are coming from Taiwan. Even the box is not made in China. It is coming from Czech Republic. They only assemble it. They are not making it. Now what happened, in a supply chain, when you have 43 nodes, when you have 43 countries, when there are interruptions even in one, the entire supply chain breaks and the entire production line slowed down. It has not come to a virtual stop, but it has slowed down. So this is with the iPhone. Now we all know China was the world factory. Everything is made in China. Even the small Taj Mahal, the memento sold in Agra is made in China, right? Even the rosary that you find in Vatican is made in China. So that much China. China was accounting for 27.3% of world production. Now what happened? Many companies outsourced to China because they thought it is cheap and they produce it very well, quality. But then what happened? The world factory stopped working. There were so many severe restrictions, lockdowns in China, and when the world factory stopped working, everything has ramifications. We all know when you take a global supply chain, it involves many things. It involves thousands of workers, it involves large number of countries, it involves multiple modes of transport, from a small van to a truck to a ship to an aircraft. And also, if there is a delay in one of the chain link, the entire supply chain is impacted. This is exactly what happened here. Now when we came to 2021, countries gradually started opening up. So there was a buying frenzy because people now wanted to buy things and the demand for everything went up. However, the supply could not match the demand. And what happened again? There was a shortage of goods everywhere in the world. We had situations where the factories were closed, manufacturing was not taking place. We had situations where the containers are stranded in another port. It is not able to move to the destination. We had so many issues, and that resulted in a global supply chain crisis. We know that 90% of internationally traded goods are transported across the ocean. Everything what we have, majority of it are coming to us across the ocean. But unfortunately, shipping had a lot of issues. Containers, the box that we transport items became scarce. Why? In some ports, the containers are stacked up and they cannot be moved. And now we needed more containers, but we can't make them because China was making the containers for the whole world, right? So you can imagine the impact of this crisis into the world global supply chain. Two lessons to be learned from that. Number one, we need the reliability of the supply chain, but at the same time, we need the redundancy of the supply chain if we want to progress. Very briefly, how does the pandemic impact Sri Lanka? It has impacted our day-to-day life. It has impacted our economy. Sri Lanka was an import-dependent economy. We like to import something and sell it to our own people and make money. That was kind of our business model. We were not so interested in making something and selling to another country and making money. So now the situation is the US dollar is appreciating because Sri Lanka's economy has three key pillars. Number one is export. Number two is remittance. Number three is tourism. Now, Dr. Anand also mentioned somehow we managed to keep the industry going. Somehow we started, the factories which were making beautiful lingerie started making personal protective equipment. So they were okay, finally, they stabilized. Remittance also, people were still sending money. It was somewhat okay. But the worst affected sector was tourism, which was nearly a 4.5 billion US dollar per annum industry, which involved about 3 million people directly and indirectly. And we all know the tourism was somewhat a circular economy. It is not only one entity benefits, whether it is the airline, the guide, the person who is selling something on the beach, the guide, the small boutique selling tambili. It is a kind of a circular economy. Now that sector was completely zero. Now only it is picking up. That is the problem that we have in Sri Lanka. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the businesses have to continue. The government has restrictions. Government cannot support. So this is the time, as Professor Anand also mentioned, tough times. But we need to overcome this tough time. The US President recently said, rebuild domestic production and innovation. So I like to harp on the second word, innovation. I think that is the way for our businesses, because you are talking about a business research faculty, you have written many papers, so that is the way forward, to be innovative. Rethink and remake the US supply chain. That is what President Biden said. Now, one thing is you have to innovate in every way you can. Innovate. When I was preparing this speech in my home, my little granddaughter walked to me and said, she called me Appachi, although I am the grandpa. What are you writing? I said, I am writing a speech. So can you come and play with me? Okay, I said, give me 10 minutes. Then I said, okay, can you put this into the waste paper basket? I gave her a small piece of paper. She rolled it up and she started playing with it. And she said, Appachi, see, I have innovated a toy. So this is, I think, it gives a message from what we throw out, what we have in our environment. Be innovative. Create something different. The traditional things that we have done is no longer holding good. We need to be innovative. Otherwise, we will lose. And we must never give up. We have to have hope. Now, General Rowell will say, Army, there is a very famous saying, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Be that. It is very difficult time. It is very tough time. But then our toughness should now sail us to the future. Value adding is another innovative that we can think of when you're thinking of business. You know, China love our black tea, the fermented black tea. But one question they keep asking is, why is your tea so cheap? Why isn't it packed nicely? Of course, Dilma is doing that now. This is what we are. We are quite happy exporting a container load of tea and getting a small profit. We are not really going to pack it nicely, add value and selling and get more money. So with innovation, I think a very important aspect is value adding. Whether it is cinnamon, whether it is pepper, whether it is coconut, whether it is fish, whether it is anything, we need to be innovative. We don't have to look for natural resources that we don't have. While I was coming, I watched a brief video clip about Dubai. They show it 50 years ago, Dubai had almost nothing. Today, Dubai has everything. And they say the success of Dubai is not money. It is ideas, it is vision, and it is love for the people. Three things critically important. Dubai does not have anything even now. They don't have oil. Abu Dhabi has oil, but not Dubai. They only have sand, desert, and a sea. But now Dubai looks a very green city, very colorful city, attractive city. Right now they are hosting Expo 20. That is ideas. So a business conference like this, I have seen the great book that you have produced. I was trying to glance through the topics, very attractive. But my message is, don't limit your ideas to this book alone. Make things happen. And if you believe, okay, I have written a good research paper, it was accepted, it was published, that is the end of the story. No way. Nothing will happen. You have to make it happen. You have to take ownership for your ideas and make it happen. Maybe there is no opportunity right now, but it will come one day. But if you don't look for opportunity, it will never come. So my advice to the young scholars who have contributed great articles, please don't stop here. So ladies and gentlemen, innovation and value adding are two ways that we can implement in this very difficult situation. There are new things coming out in the world. The world wants to go green. Use that as an opportunity. Create something which is green. Create wooden toothbrushes. Create wooden combs, wooden polka to handle, right? We throw most of our coconut shells. Of course, we make activate carbon, but we have many things. If you are creative, if you are innovative, make use of that opportunity. Because the world is changing. Opportunities are there everywhere. The world is trying to go green. So let us find business opportunities through that concept. And the world is trying to be blue in the ocean, blue economy, right? So use that. And Sri Lanka wants to have 70% of renewable energy by 2030. Huge business opportunity, a new area. Look for it. Now, Sri Lanka wants to have a blue economy, that is a sustainable economic development from the ocean. Huge potential in the deep ocean. We only know the shipping. There are much more things happening underneath the ocean. The ocean is considered as the frontier to look for drugs, to make biochemicals and make drugs which can cure AIDS, which can cure tuberculosis, which can cure cancer. Organisms living in the deep ocean more than 1,000 meters down. So please look at the new business opportunities. The blue economy at sea and the green economy on land gives you here huge opportunities. Now we need to enhance our production. We need to have joint investment, research and development. I think your institution is doing that. Research is critically important. Without R&D, a country cannot move. Without research and development, country cannot move. Then another very important aspect of business. A group of scholars studied as to how China is succeeding so fast, so well, because they have the largest number of entrepreneurs in the world. Now, if you are Sri Lanka, we have maybe the smallest number of per capita, smallest number of entrepreneurs in the world. In China, all these scholars that I am associating with, during the daytime they talk about strategy, policy, the concept. In the night, they talk about business. They want to do a business. So that is what we need in Sri Lanka. We need more entrepreneurs who are engaged in business. So ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has given us a huge challenge. Now we have to collectively overcome. And mind you, unfortunately, COVID-19 may not be the last virus we see in our lives. There can be other viruses coming our way. If you know that the global warming has resulted in the Arctic melting. Now in the Arctic ice, I think thousands of viruses, thousands of bacteria are trapped for thousands of years. Now imagine the situation if these ice melted and the water comes our way, we really don't know what will happen. So we can't forget the best practices or the lessons that we learned. Keeping that in our mind, we have to plan for the future. So hard times are ahead. Be innovative, be creative, add value, think business. Turn this challenge into an opportunity with a long-term perspective and with a positive attitude and approach. And that will be a success if we can do that. So I wish all the very best to the conference and to the gentlemen and the ladies who contributed papers, and also to the Vice Chancellor and the wonderful team, and to the compeer who gave a great introduction about me. Wish you all the very best, and thank you, and let us look for a brighter future with innovation. Thank you.